Welcome to Perfectly Imperfect Me 365, the podcast where we get real about mental health, messy growth, and being human one day at a time. I'm your host, Rachel, and together we're navigating life's chaos with honesty, compassion, and a little humor. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome. I am so glad you are joining me. So let me just start with a sentence that might annoy you a little bit. When you're born, you look like your parents. But when you die, you look like your decisions. Not your childhood, not your trauma, not your diagnosis, your decisions. And before you shut this off and you just start saying, oh, it's easy for her to say, I want you to stay with me. Because this isn't about blame. I am not blaming you. It's about agency and what we do with what we were handed. I'm not minimizing upbringing. I'm a therapist. I mean, I know better than that. What I am doing is I'm questioning the idea that our past gets a lifetime of voting rights over our future. Because at the end of the day, you didn't choose your parents. You didn't choose their emotional skills or their coping styles or even their silence, their chaos, or their control. Some of you were raised in homes where love was completely conditional. And some of you were raised to survive, not to feel. Some of you learned very early on. You don't need too much. You don't want to be too much. And you definitely don't want to rock the boat. That matters because it shapes you. But here's the uncomfortable part. And many of you may not like me for saying this. At some point, your upbringing stops being the explanation and starts being the excuse. Not because you're weak, but because you're grown. And adulthood isn't about like racing the past. It's about deciding who is driving now. So let's just be honest. Sometimes holding on to our upbringing definitely feels safer than letting it go. Why? Well, because if this is just how I was raised, then I don't have to risk change. I don't have to disappoint anyone. I definitely don't have to fail trying something new. But here's the cost, and I want you to think about this. So you end up protecting a story that's actively hurting you. And I see this literally a lot of the times in therapy. Adults still living in reaction mode, relationships built around old wounds, people explaining their behavior instead of examining it. Insight without action does not change your life. It just makes you more articulate about why you're stuck. And here's something that we don't talk about enough. Your nervous system doesn't just respond to trauma. It responds to repeated decisions. So every time you stay silent instead of setting a boundary, maybe you overgive instead of asking for support, you choose familiarity over health. Your body learns that this is who we are. And the opposite is also true. Every time you choose discomfort over avoidance, honesty over peacekeeping, responsibility over resentment, your nervous system adapts. Healing isn't a realization, it's an actual practice. And healing doesn't mean that things stop hurting. And one of the most limiting phrases that I hear often is, that's just how I am, Rachel. No, that's how you've been deciding. Personality is not a destiny. Patterns are not character traits. You are not just bad at relationships or just anxious, emotionally unavailable by nature. You were shaped by your environment and then you practiced it. And practice means changeable. And if that scares you a little bit, that's okay. It should also give you some hope. So here's the truth no one wants to hear. Growth includes grief. Grief for your parents that you didn't have, grief for the tools that you were not given or taught or allowed to even use in the family, grief for the years you coped instead of lived. But grief is not the same as staying loyal to your pain. You can honor what hurt you without letting it run your life. And at some point, healing does ask, are you willing to be accountable for the life you want, even if you weren't responsible for the pain you got? There's this one little DBT assumption that we all abide by, which is that you may not have caused your pain and you have to solve it anyway. And that's the work. So what do I mean when I say you look like your decisions? Thank you for asking. And that quote isn't about appearance, guys. It's all about presence. You can see it in people. The ones who choose honesty over image, the ones who learned how to self regulate instead of explode, the ones who stopped outsourcing their worth. They carry themselves differently. And not because life was easier, but because they decided to stop letting the past dictate their future. So I'm going to leave you with this. If someone met you today with no backstory about who you are, would your life reflect your upbringing or your decisions? And if you don't like the answer, that is not failure. That's just information. You don't need a new personality. You don't need to rewrite your childhood because you can't. You just need one honest decision followed by another. That's how lives change. So if this resonated with you, or if you know somebody that's struggling to let their past go, share this with them. And I appreciate you sticking around, listening to it, even if you didn't like my statement. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'd love you more than ever to go and rate it. 5 stars, of course. And more importantly, just share it. Follow me for more. And you could catch me on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and TikTok. But you know who I am, Rachel. Have a great day.